like to welcome everybody and thank you for joining the Visual and DocuSign webcast this morning. We will be recording today's webcast and we'll share that with all the attendees after the event. My name is Karen Dallin. I'm a Public Sector Account Director at Visual. I would also like to introduce you to my colleagues who are also going to be joining me on the webcast this morning. Abby Williams, who is a Principal Business Analyst at Visual, and Lloyd Williams, Senior Account Director for DocuSign. Our objective today is to provide you with an insight as to how Visual and DocuSign can help your organisation to automate and connect the entire agreement process, from preparing to sign, acting on, and managing the whole agreement lifecycle. During the webcast today, we would like to encourage you to ask questions. In the Teams chat window, there is a facility to post your questions, and we will endeavour to answer those during the course of the webcast. We'll also have a question and answer session at the end of the webinar. Alternatively, if you prefer, you may wish to email your questions directly into partners@visual.com. Visual and DocuSign have been in partnership for over 2 years now. As a Microsoft-focused partner for 15 years, Visual has been helping clients in the public sector to transform IT services across cloud, business, and digital services. During that time, we have chosen strategic ecosystem partners to underpin our customers' requirements. DocuSign, with its agreement cloud platform, allows us to deliver value, efficiencies, and transformation. The world knows DocuSign as the #1 e-signature company, but their capabilities extend beyond that to manage the entire agreement process. We have seen significant increase in demand for their solutions during these unprecedented times. So I'd now like to hand over to my colleague Abby Williams, who will explore the need to move digital services.
Thank you, Karen. So if we go on to the next slide, so as Karen said, there's been a real change across a lot of the clients that we're speaking to, and a real demand to move more towards this way of working. So at the minute, obviously, it's a time to reflect and a time to look at things that didn't work very well when working away from a location. So I think everyone's realised that they cannot be dependent on a specific office, and we need to look at how we can become more independent and have a better business continuity plan. So we need to, although we've obviously started looking at working in a more agile way, working more remotely, and a lot of organisations have adapted to that and adopted that, it's then the processes that always seem to lag behind, and that's really where the next step is in improving the way your organisation works, is looking at the processes and make sure you can improve and make them more digital. There's also obviously a need to move away from more paper-based processes. Obviously, if someone's having to go into the office all the time to collect the post or to do printing or to do wet signatures, it really is time consuming, and it's not getting the organisation working in the best it can. And also that is usually an objective for most organisations, is to work more towards a paperless organisation and improve but convenience is obviously going to be one of the massive things. We need to move things faster, we need to react quicker. So that's where really paper processes versus digital processes, there's not really a comparison, because you can get multiple signatures at the same time, you can get a process completed a lot faster, If it's done digitally and the audit logs carried digitally, you've got that for continuity, and you can always refer back to that as well. We're also seeing that clients are asking at the minute that, well, saying that they need to digitalize processes, and this could be across multiple things. You've obviously got DocuSign for some of the processes. You've also, if you're investing in Microsoft 365 as well, there's really, you've got all the tools available for you to be able to adapt those processes and save time and effort. And moving away from office dependency, as I said, that's what a lot of clients are coming to us now, saying they need to really look at their process in depth and make sure that if anything were to happen again, if there was even simple things like snow days or really adverse weather, you've then got the ability to carry on working without any issues or disruptions. And I think that's one of the things to take away, is looking at making sure that if anything does happen, that your organisation can carry on and they're not going to really see a massive impact on their work. And they're also wanting to save time, cost, and make efficiencies. That's one of the key things I think everyone's being asked to do at the minute, is to do more with less. So it's really looking at those time-consuming processes, those ones that are really mundane manual tasks for people that they have to complete, and really taking that away and making sure that they've got the management of it, but not having the laborious manual elements of it. And I think with everything going on, I think the audit trail is really vital, and having that in a digital format is much better than having a lot of paper-based ones in a folder stored away in a filing cabinet. So I think it's really harnessing that and making sure that all of your auditability is easy to find and it's there ready for you. So if we go on and look at some of the example business processes that we might want to look at, then one of the key ones really that can be quite time consuming is the recruitment process. So if you think when you're doing getting a new hire on board, there'll be things around, obviously when you send an offer, there might be a back and forth, when contracts are signed. Used to be done paper-based, by post, or someone would have to come in or deliver if they're local. So that really takes away the effort around recruitment processes. You can really streamline that process and make it a lot quicker. So then if there's a really high demand for a certain skill or person, then you can react a lot quicker and get them on board faster. Also, contracts with suppliers and customers. So if you've got your procurement team that have got lots of contracts, they can be done all digitally and kept up to date, and you can then obviously build out processes around when contracts are due for renewal and have reminders around that as well, rather than scurrying around in a paper-based format or in someone's desktop trying to find when those contracts are due for renewal. Also, senior leadership, it's even more difficult now. Now you haven't got them in an office to chase round to get their signature. You're relying very much on being able to get in touch with them by phone, email, for them to be able to make signatures. So it's a lot easier if it's done through a clear process. They get reminders to be able to sign things off, and then you just chase as needed rather than having to run around trying to find them. And one of the common ones is obviously NDAs, whether that be internally or with partners that you're working with. That's a simple process that can be made a lot easier. So that needs to obviously go, is one key example to go digital. And then your HR policy. So when you need people to sign off to say they've agreed to it or they've read it, you can get those done through that process as well. And that relates to things like, we know that people have to sign off to say around GDPR. That was something that they needed to review some training material or be trained, and then they needed to sign off, so they agree with it and they understand it. So It's a really easy way for the HR team to manage the process and be able to see who signed off in it and who hasn't, rather than having to keep multiple spreadsheets and have it in more of a manual process. So there's some of the key examples from a business point of view, and ones we see that customers tend to start off with, rather than thinking, oh, let's transform the whole organisation. It's really looking at some of the key ones, and it might be a good time at the minute, obviously, with moving away from the offices. You can look at processes that were really painstaking to get up and running again, and maybe use those as a new proof of concept for moving forwards. So from that, I'll hand over to Lloyd, where he will talk more about DocuSign.
Thanks, Abby, and good morning, everyone. As Abby said, my name is Lloyd Williams, and I'm an account executive at DocuSign. I've been with DocuSign for almost 4 years, and in that time, I've really focused on helping organisations who have yet to use electronic signature, how the solution can help them. And as Karen had alluded to earlier, over the last 4 or 5 months, we've really seen a sharp increase in inquiries, especially from the public sector. I've personally worked with many NHS trusts, CCGs, and local and central government bodies. I really just give them an understanding of how DocuSign works and how it can help them with their new working procedures. So today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how DocuSign can help your business, give you some examples of others that we've helped out, and then give you a demonstration of the service. I'm just going to click this forward. So the speed of business has been recognised as a differentiator, especially when it comes to our personal consumer habits. If you're thinking about what we're expecting in our personal lives now, this has really seeped into our business lives as well. And a recent study by Forrester Research shows that by implementing electronic signature solutions, organisations can reduce the turnaround time of documents. It can save money for the business and ultimately give time back to staff to perform less administrative tasks and more revenue generating tasks. Thank you. And really, this is no different for government bodies. And with a recent study that's been performed by Accenture on 3,000 citizens, it shows that whilst digital solutions are desired, both when working with public and so within the public space, the government bodies really aren't bringing these through to a satisfactory delivery. And we're really here to try and help this. And just moving on to the next slide there, what you can see is at the core, our goal is to make every business, whether big or small, easier to do business with, easier to do business for, and ultimately easier on the environment. And what we refer to this being as being more agreeable. And if we just move on from there, and we do this really by helping our customers digitally transform the very foundations of doing business. And that's agreements and the agreement processes. And businesses run on agreements, and they're everywhere across the business. And if we move on to the next slide, we can see how government bodies are currently using DocuSign. These are customers that have come back to us and reported the use cases of where our electronic signature service is helping both in the front and the back office. And if you think about the roles that you guys are in, you'll probably see some of the use cases that you're familiar with within your teams. But what's been interesting to me over the last 3 or 4 months is whilst understanding more documents that can be signed electronically internally, we've also had inquiries about key functionality such as witnessing documents, signing documents with a company seal, and most recently, and something that was announced this morning, was the land registry are now accepting electronic signatures on property deeds. That's something that has been a long time coming and has now been authorised, and there's a lot of content that's been released today, both via DocuSign and the Land Registry around this. Moving on from here. So it really is, as part of my role, what I do is help organisations understand and realise that they have what we call a system of agreement, whether they like to know it or not. And we can see on this next slide the process that these documents will go through. So every document has to be prepared somehow. All these documents have to be signed. They then need to be acted upon or fulfill the obligations of the agreement. And then finally, they need to be managed somewhere and somehow. And this is what we call the company's system of agreement. You can probably see some of the ways in which you are collecting information on paper or by scanning and faxing documents around. And if we move on from here, the problem is that these systems of agreement were really not built for the speed of today's business. And in most cases, they're manual steps, they're stepping away from digital processes, and they're very paper-based. The next slide shows thinking about this within a HR process. And I like to talk about this, especially in these types of scenarios where we have people from lots of different parts of the business, because we've all been through a HR process and we can all appreciate what that is. And every step of the way, whether it's conducting background checks, sending an employer contract to be signed, or setting up a compensation plan, all of these intersect with the agreement process. And the reason being is that this process is underscored by agreements, from letters to onboardings through to promotions and exiting. And if you have a HR process that doesn't interact with this modern system of agreement, the candidate experience is going to suffer. Your employees are going to have a really poor experience trying to bring these individuals on. And ultimately, it's just going to mean that the business is suffering. Moving into looking at one of our customers, Hull City Council, you can see some of the stats here in terms of the savings that they're making per document when implementing DocuSign within their legal and procurement departments. Now, Ian has been using DocuSign for some time now, several years in fact, and he's really seen some of the benefits across the council. And now what they're looking to do is expand it further on from electronic signatures into some of the other solutions that Karen and Abby were speaking around earlier on today, that's part of the DocuSign toolkit. Ian is very willing to speak to other individuals to learn, so you can learn more about the journey that he's been on, and give you some recommendations about tips and tricks that he has taken on board during the time of using DocuSign. And that's completely separate to ourselves and Regional, and something that if you would like to organise, we can certainly arrange for you. Oops. So before we move into the demonstration, I just wanted to give you a sense of what the bigger picture is, and like what I was saying about what Ian was thinking about earlier, with electronic signature up in the top left there being just one component of the agreement cloud set of solutions that we help organisations go through of these journey of these documents, or this system of agreement that they have set up. So whether it's using a contract lifecycle management solution to help with redlining legal documents prior to them being in an executable format, or using guided forms to help citizens create the right document for signature, DocuSign has got experience in all of these. And these can be integrated into current software platforms. We've mentioned Office 365 a lot at the top of this call, but there are other platforms. We have at least 350 existing software connectors, meaning that DocuSign can interact with these very, very easily and very simply to set up. But I think what's also most important, if we look into the security of DocuSign on this next slide, and also some of the compliance that we have around the solution, we can see here that we are fully compliant with the EIDAS regulations, and also the European Commission regulations around trusted service providers. So what this means is that you can be confident in DocuSign meeting all of the relevant details to provide a legal and secure electronic signature, as well as being able to provide some of the additional enhancements on the security of electronic signatures, such as advanced and qualified electronic signatures, with DocuSign being the only global trusted service provider of this type of solution. So with that, I'm now going to move into the demonstration of the service. If you just give me one moment to load up my other screen. So I'm now logging in to DocuSign's web platform. The keen eyes of you there will have saw that this is available via single sign-on as well, so that individuals can keep the same username and passwords as their other systems. And if you are new to the service, this is what the experience will look like from a sender's perspective. And I'm using this on my demonstration account here today. I'll draw your reference to a couple of details before we look to send out a document. With these quick links down the left-hand side, just looking at things that are either requiring my action or waiting for others that I have sent out within the last 6 months. And by clicking into either one of these options here, it will draw me through to this inbox style service where I can manage any document that I have sent out within the last 6 months here. I can jump to these quick views that we saw on the home page here. And more importantly, I can have a folder structure for the storage of these documents once they've been completed. You can share folders with other team members, as well as sharing individual envelopes with these team members, so that if anybody goes on holiday or you would like a team of people to gain access to everything, that they can do so within this format. For the purpose of today, I'm going to send out a 2-signer NDA for signature, and I'm going to draw reference to a template that I have saved in the platform. To do so, I'm going to click New, and then simply send an envelope. This brings you through to the first screen, where DocuSign is going to ask you to enter the documents in question that you are looking to have signed, and also complete a signing order. Note that you can upload from your desktop, can pull from cloud storage, or indeed use a template. I'm going to upload a document that I have edited on my desktop, which is this NDA here. Now, as we load this document into the platform, DocuSign has recognized that I've built a pre-designed template, allowing the business rules and logic to be saved within the platform, and it matches against the characters that are at the start and the end of this document. And by clicking apply, it's going to make my life a lot easier in terms of having to send this out. By applying the template that I had pre-created, it has now set me up with a signing order, stating that the customer needs to be signed first and their name and email address needs to be entered. And then this is going to be countersigned by the sender of the document. I finally want an administrator to receive a copy once that has been fully signed. This has already been pre-saved into the system so that I do not need to do this in the future. It was myself that created this previously. And to create this, I just go through the same steps and the same screens as you see here. But instead of clicking send at the end, I click save. And then next time I can draw reference to it again. So I'm going to enter the customer's details. You can see here that I've sent through to Bob before, so it has saved his email into here. I can also receive an administrative copy as well. I'm going to change this email just so it comes through to the same inbox, just for some ease whilst we're doing this. Again, James is somebody that I've sent these through to before. Other areas to note is that we have different options for the signers. Needs to sign is when anybody needs to take an action, whether that be a signature, approve, or just tick a few boxes or key in some text. Other options here, receives a copy would be them receiving a carbon copy right at the very end. And also needs to view could be the situation where you want everybody to have seen the document and you need an audit trail to confirm that this has taken place. As we scroll through this first screen, I have the ability to add some custom envelope fields, meaning that I can search through these in the platform later on and make it easier to find the document. I'm going to add just a number in here for us. And then finally, I can customize the email that goes out to each of these individuals in the workflow to make it more personal for them. So I'll just do this for Bob. And that can be done for the other recipients in the process as well. Finally, here we have these advanced options. And by clicking into this, I can set reminders on the platform for us to automatically chase the individuals to sign the document. And this was something that was mentioned by Abby earlier on in the conversation. But by doing this, it's going to save a lot of administrative time. If we say that after 5 days, we would like the individual to be reminded every day. And a similar option for an expiry date on a document, if the document is important and would require such an expiration date. We can also add our own branding into this. Here I'm using a fictitious brand of paper preventers, but you can of course upload your own company logos and brands within here. And under this drop-down menu, you do have the ability to have multiple in there. So if you're an organisation that has multiple brands, or you would like to send these out per department, then you can do so as well. And the final option that I will tick on here is allow mobile-friendly viewing with responsive signing. We find that over 60% of documents are now signed on mobile devices, and different versions of these, whether they be iOS or Android devices, or laptops, mobiles, or tablets. By clicking this button, it will mean that the documents will resize to the screen based on where it is being viewed. So no requirements to pinch and zoom or to try and make documents very fiddly. This is just a simple scroll up and down, as you will see with some of the new web pages that have been designed as well. But I'm going to save those options. I'm happy with the advanced options of the reminders, the email structure, and then the signing order. I will then click next and move into the actual document itself. So here we can see our NDA. I can scroll through this to the relevant parts of where any tags may need to be placed. Here I've got multiple options around radio buttons, that if there are different options that need to be ticked, fields that could be hidden based on if I tick one of these radio buttons, and text fields becoming available. And also the ability for a drop-down menu within here as well. These are some things that I've previously placed on this document to show you the different things that can be collected back from signers, not just a signature. So if you are ever having to collect information on these documents, you have various different options that you can use. We can see that these yellow fields are in yellow, and that dictates that it's Bob that is needing to complete this information. And we can see that these tags are yellow down the left-hand side. If I was to change this to blue, you would see that these tags become blue as well. And for the purpose of this, we're just going to ask for some signatures. So I'm going to actually remove these from the template now, just by selecting them all and hitting the delete button. And I'm going to move through to the signature page. Here we can see where I've dragged these various tags on for James, by dragging a name and a signature, like so. So I'll just get rid of those. And I've done the same over here for Bob as well. These are pre-saved within the template. So what you saw on the previous slide, page, in terms of the signing order, the email structure, and the advanced options, they can all be pre-saved into the template. And then on the next page, these tags can be saved onto the document as well. So the way that I built this out was just going through this same process that we've just seen here. And instead of clicking send, I would have had the option to click save. Now, because I'm reusing this, all I need to do is click send because I'm confident that everything is in the right place. So I go through and then send my document out. And this brings us back into the platform and into my sent items. I can click into here to see the progress of the document throughout the workflow, and that is currently sitting with Bob and it is requiring his signature. I'm going to switch hats now and just jump over into Bob's inbox and see that the document has come through. Note that we have our logo, our colour scheme, and the email that I'd built out in the platform for Bob to sign. So this is the same process that all of your signers will go through if they're internal or external to your business. By clicking review, firstly, we're brought into a secure online portal that is asking Bob, in this instance, to confirm that he's happy to use electronic signatures. And this is making the assumption that Bob has never used DocuSign before. So we click continue, and now we move through the documents. We can either click start when it will take Bob to the first point in which he needs to take his action, or he can scroll through and read the content of this. Note that it has pulled through Bob's name onto the document already, and the title and the date as well. Apologies, I am using my US demonstration account, which has meant it's pulled through the date in the incorrect format. For all of you guys, you're based on our European servers, which means that this will default to the European standard. So we can see we have the signature box here, and by clicking to sign, it is going to ask you for the first time of using DocuSign to adopt a signature. And really here you have three options. I just have two set up on mine. The first is selecting a style, and the second is to draw your signature out here. I'm doing that with my mouse, so it doesn't look very accurate. So I can select a style here. It's important to note that the actual image isn't the legally binding piece, but rather the data points in the background that we're collecting, and also the unique string of numbers and letters underneath the signature there as well. If you're on a mobile device, this will default to turning the screen sideways, and you can squiggle that out. Another option that you have, particularly for those senior members of staff, may be that they wish to upload a copy of their actual signature into the platform, meaning that they're able to just click that and it will be their own signature image each time as well. So Bob has now completed his area of the document, and he can click finish up in the top right-hand corner. Now, if I just jump back into DocuSign before I click finish, you can see that Bob is showing that he's viewed this document at this time and this date, but he is yet to sign. So it's giving you real-time updates as to where the document is within the process. So I'm just going to pop back into the document and I click finish. Now, let's say Bob has never used DocuSign before. It's offering him the ability to set up a free account if he wanted to, and you do have the ability to switch this off for your signers as well. So we click no thanks, and that is Bob, all done. You'll note that this has thrown us back to a DocuSign URL. As part of the branding options within DocuSign, you also have the ability to push them to a page of your choice. So that could be a landing page, it could be an external facing page, it could be an internal intranet page, depending on the purpose of the document. But I'm just going to close this window down. I can then refresh. And we will see that it's moved on from Bob and into James. And I do not have to do anything, but if I just pop back into the inbox that I'm using, I can see that this has now come through to James and it's asking him to sign this document. Note that I didn't change the language on this email, so it's just got the example name of the document that we were using. For James, the process is exactly the same. Again, he has not used electronic signatures before, so he's agreeing to use the service. He scrolls through the document. Note that we've got the title and he has the ability to edit that now. I can put my company details in here as well. Finally, I'm requested to sign. I click to sign. Perhaps James wishes to change the style that we can see here, and he adopts. You'll see that these boxes have red squares around them. It means that you are required to key in some information into this box before it will allow you to finish. So if you're ever having situations where documents are coming back half complete or missing information, there is functionality within DocuSign to stop that from happening. If I click finish now, for example, it's going to pull me back to this document stating it is required, and it looks for my company details. So I'm just going to pop this back in there. I click finish, and now that it allows me to go through and do that. So we're aware now that both Bob and James have signed this document. I can pop back into my DocuSign account. And I will see green ticks down the left-hand side, meaning that both Bob and James have signed, and as a result of that, the admin could receive a copy at the end. You can see here that we've got the time, dates, and locations of where the documents were signed. I can click in here and see a copy of this. I can also download the document here by clicking this button, and it gives me the option to download the document and also the certificate of completion. The certificate of completion is very important, and what enables us to be able to comply with the EIDAS regulations. I'm going to show you that by just getting to by a slightly different way of coming into more and then history. If I zoom in on this just a second, here what you will see is all of the activities that have taken place in the creation of this envelope, when it was sent through, when it had been opened, viewed, and signed by each of the individuals in the process. And then finally, at the end, I have it set up so that PDF copies are emailed to everybody within the process. You have the ability to stop that email from going out, or you just have the ability for an email to go out with a link in to say, please click on this link to download the document. And then finally, from here, we have the certificate of completion. This is the separate PDF document that we produce to ensure the legality of the signatures on the document. And we would always suggest to save these and store these wherever you are storing documents that have been signed. These can either be within DocuSign, and we offer free storage, or you can download them from the platform as you saw and store them wherever you have designated those to go. So we've walked through there a simple sending and signing process. The final piece of DocuSign that I will show you today is just around our reporting functionality, whereby you have some quick overviews to help you understand the documents that this user has sent out and we have some high level options here in terms of the status of the documents, how many of those have been fully completed, the volumes that are going out, and then finally how quickly those are being signed. Under these options here, I have lots more granular options around reporting that I can look at just for myself, my team, or my entire organisation. And these can also be scheduled to be emailed to individuals outside of the platform as well. So, for example, if you wish to email somebody every Monday morning about the documents that were sent out last week and the status of all of those, so that if 3 had been signed, but 1 may have not been signed, you can follow up on that one accordingly. And that is the end of the demonstration I'm going to run today. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and hand back to Karen.
Thank you for that, Lloyd. That was really informative. In terms of the closing notes, I hope everybody found that of interest. I just wanted to spend a couple of minutes talking to you about procurement options. As public sector procurement guidelines need to be adhered to, Visual are very familiar with those processes, as about 70% of our clients are in the public sector. So we're able to offer a number of routes for you to purchase DocuSign licenses and services. The direct award option is one that was made available earlier this year in a bid to keep the UK economy moving. Crown Commercial Services back in April confirmed that direct award is possible because we are living through an unforeseeable event at this moment in time. This is still, however, at each organisation's discretion, but the UK government is determined to see council, central government and health providers to use this option to ensure the economy doesn't collapse. Visual and DocuSign services are also available through a number of frameworks. The digital marketplace, we have G-Cloud 11 and also the NHS SBS framework. The NHS SBS framework is actually open to all public sector organisations, not just the NHS. And if required, Visual can help guide you through these procurement options, even supporting you to draft the call-off contract templates. So in terms of the next steps, we have, as part of our campaign with DocuSign, we have created some special offers for attendees of the webcast today and your organisations, of course. The first offer is includes 10 DocuSign Business Pro licenses, including 12 months DocuSign support and an adoption consulting light engagement. The DocuSign consulting light engagement includes guided onboarding, a review of one business use case, setting up the software, providing you with best practice advice, and also access to self-paced training courses. That's a really good starter, and that includes, that price there of £4,965 includes a 10% discount. These offers today are available until the 20th of August. We also have a second option, which is the same as option 1, but we can include up to 5 business use cases to get you really motoring through your organisation to help you adopt this digital service. If you are interested in those offers, please don't hesitate to contact us. Lloyd's given some examples of local government account earlier, but we have lots of examples of central government, local government, and indeed charities that have been implementing DocuSign software this year in particular. So moving on to the next steps. Following the end of the webcast today, we will send out the recording of the webcast, and we'll get in touch with you, and if required we can arrange a one-to-one session with you or your colleagues to carry out a demonstration, be a bit more specific around your particular requirements, and we can also provide you with pricing, of course, the different license options and the different license versions, just so that you can see what the cost of the subscription will be for your organisation. We would, of course, love your feedback, and whilst we are just going through the question and answer session now, be interesting to open it up to the audience to see if you have some questions. I do have one already in the Q&A section, which I think I might need to refer to Lloyd for, please, which was how do you align sorry, I can't actually see the question now, sorry, it was somewhere. How do you align the dropped fields onto the documents within the existing text? I think you demonstrated that earlier, Lloyd. Are you able to answer that one, please?
Sure, no problem. And thank you for the question, Christos. So the fields can be aligned by simply dragging the text field from the panel on the left-hand side into where the space is on the actual document. You may have a space already within the documents that you have created for individuals to key in text or to write out with a pen. So it's just a case of dropping the text box in there. What you can also do is format the text fields to ensure that they are the same. It's in the same font and the same size as the document, so it does read through smoother. But Christoph, happy to pick that up with you separately to this call and give you a little working example of it if you would require so as well.
Thanks, Lloyd. We also had a question earlier from Chris Begley to ask if DocuSign was compatible with Google. I did actually answer that question, but thought it was worth bringing up for the rest of the audience. Lloyd confirmed that Google has 350, I think it was, integrations, Lloyd, and definitely Google is one of those.
Yeah,
Lloyd,
that's correct, Karen.
Yeah, and
yeah, that's
there
correct.
Thank you. And there are actually specific integrations which enable you to publish documents for signature directly from Google Docs or from Microsoft Documents, as an example. Let's see, do we have any more questions? Is there a limit to the number of signers that there can be per envelope? That's a question from Ibrahim. And Lloyd, I'll let you take that one, please.
Yeah, it's a good question there, Ibrahim. There is no limit to the number of signers that you can have within one envelope. So if you think about some of maybe the internal sign-off processes that you have, these may have 3, 4 or 5 separate individuals that are requiring a signature on that document before it's fully approved. And that is something that DocuSign can handle very, very easily. I've heard of envelopes that have over 30 or 40 individual signer approvers within those. And the way in which it gets built through in the system is that each tag or each individual has different colored tags on the page. So it's very easy for the sender to set that up. And each of the signers will only see their area, those tags in which they need to complete.
Thank you for that, Lloyd. We do have another question, which is, what's the difference between requesting an approval and a signature using DocuSign?
There is very little difference, in all honesty. The process would be the same in terms of that first screen that you saw, where I was entering the individuals into the workflow. The only differences would come through on the tags that you would place on the document itself. If it's just an approval, you require there is an approval tag which you can drop, and you can also place a decline button next to it as well. And there you wouldn't require to place a signature. If you have just approve or decline on there, it won't mark the document itself, but it will appear in the audit trail at the back end, as opposed to a signature actually appearing on the document as well. Some organisations like to have both the signature and the approval box on there when going through an approval process. Others just want the individual's name on the document and that they have clicked the approval button. Those types of specific use cases can be worked through with DocuSign, either with someone like myself as you go through the assessment process, or with the adoption consultant who'll be able to help you get the system set up as well.
Perfect. Thank you, Lloyd. That covers all of the questions that we had in the Q&A section. If anybody does have additional questions, please do send them via email, or you can continue to add them to the Q&A section for a few minutes after the finish of the event. So I think that brings us almost to a close. We're on good time, and I'd like to thank you for joining the webcast today. Can just move the slide on one, please, Viv. Just want to confirm that we'd love you to follow Risual at our social media connections, Twitter, LinkedIn and Instagram. You can see them there. And at DocuSign, of course, as well. They're on all of those channels. Any questions, do email us at partners@risual.com, or you can contact DocuSign directly at docusign.co.uk/contact-sales. And the telephone numbers are there also. So without further ado, I wanted to finally ask you to join us next Thursday for another event where we are going to be talking about modernising and reforming your organisation as we move into the return phase of COVID-19. This event also has a bundle of services which we have partnered with Microsoft and could include some funding to help you start the return to work. So if you would like to attend that webinar, you can find that invitation on risual.com/events, or please do email us at partners@risual.com and we can register a place for you. I'd like to thank Abby and Lloyd for your contributions today. I hope it was very interesting for all the attendees, and we would love your feedback, so please don't hesitate to advise us if there is anything that you are specifically looking for, or if you can make some recommendations for improvement. Thank you very much, and goodbye.